Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Now, you know a material that I reckon is super cool, because I am a bit of a fossil man, but gets way too little attention, is this right here. So this is a piece of wood opal. You can see it's got the nice little grains here. This one's from Lightning Ridge. I can pop up a photo of what it looks like under the flashlight. It's essentially got this 50-50 mix here. That's pretty black potch, pretty dark. And then it's a dark crystal all the way up along the face. And it kind of slants across here. So this far end up here is all crystal, glows under the light pretty well. A little bit dirty with the sand up towards this end, but it does look like it clears out. So if I can get this crust off, you can see right here there's huge potential. And then I don't really want to touch all of the woody features on the back and the sides. I want to keep those as much as humanly possible. It's the back, so I can get away with it. I just need to pray that this sand comes out and we'd be on a winner. One of those classic Lightning Ridge blue blacks. But of course, there's only one way to find out, so let's spin up and just peel this one back and see what we get. Alright, right from the start, I'm going to jump straight to it and say we don't keep the wood-like features, we cut an absolute gem. So it works out pretty well. Starting out with the 80 grit sintered diamond, we're just going to grind off this crust. I'll speed up the footage a bit. You've all seen this before. Now, the one tricky thing about this one, and any wood opal, and maybe this is why people don't like it so much, because of the grains of the wood, you do get these little sand inclusions that can run really deep. But the biggest problem for me on this carving was this crystal end. So you'll see I'll spend a lot of time attacking that and just checking it out. But I do need to hit the whole stone, so I'm looking here and I'm seeing good signs. You might see little speckles of sand, but I'm seeing good signs because they're becoming speckles. That's always the best thing. When they start joining together, that's when you know the sand is absolutely shooting through the stone. In our case, I can see already that those are going to come out real easy. Probably won't get them out fully with the 80 grit, probably drop to the 600 grit before I go all the way through. But the majority of it, you do want to get out with the 80 grit. You don't want to work your 600 grit too much at all. I've been talking to a few people that have bought on the store and they've had some issues wearing out their 600s. But I think it's just from overuse. You really do want to rely on these 80s. My 80s are getting a bit misshapen, but it's not too bad. And this is probably why a lot of the time when I'm carving, you'll see here, I'm checking out this sand spot and I'm seeing that it's going pretty much all the way through. If we slow down the footage, you can see this is the crystal end and there is sand still everywhere. I'm drilling hard into this like a dentist drills into a cavity. This is not a good sign. But there's a little trick here. Because it's so sand shot and we don't want it, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to beam a line across. It's easier with a narrower burr, but I already had this one mounted. So we're going to stick with it and I'm going to do a little bit on the front and then finish it off on the back. We're not going to have to go all the way through. If you've ever cut glass sheets or anything like that before, you can actually just score them on both sides and then give them a snap. Here I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm just grinding it in on both sides, and then when I think it looks thin enough, which is about now, I'll just put the Dremel down and snap a Reno. So much faster to do that way. You will end up with a pretty jagged edge on it, and of course we got to go through and cut that off with the 80 grits into diamond as well. This burr will wear, but it really doesn't care very much. This thing can power through so much rock, so don't be too scared about even putting it up against a sharp edge. This is exactly what this burr is made for. Even the sharpest of edges, it'll tank it. It really doesn't care. Have a look at that. It's just gone straight through, not sped up footage. It has not a concern in the world. And we're going to take all of that crystal end off and bring it right in to where it's just sitting on that black potch. It is still crystal, it's still a very dark crystal on the surface here, but we're actually going to grind it all the way back in to the point where it is actually becoming more just keeping the black opal part and getting rid of a lot of the crystal. Mostly because there are little bits of sand trapped within the crystal, and even if they're below the surface, you're still going to see them because it's so clear. And you can have a look here. Still a little bit of sand. We're going to work on the edges, but not really to grind them into the final shape, just to take them off. And we'll come across with the 600 grit and really finish it off. The 80, just drop it when you're getting really into the color and when you've got a rough kind of final shape. You can see this one's still not the final shape. It's not perfectly ovaled, I in fact won't even do that with the 600 grit though. I will set up for it. I'll finish it off with the sandpapers, and the coarse grit sandpapers are as aggressive, if not more aggressive, than 600 grit. And because they're a flatter surface, it's a lot easier to get a nice square edge. So I a lot of the time just leave it up to the sandpaper burrs. You'll see I'm working here on the black opal end. The black opal base kind of tapers across the entire stone. So I'm working on that end because every time I work the face, I end up getting a little bit of a fried egg look. The color bar runs really thin up towards that end. So I have to be really careful, and every time I take a little bit off the face, if I see the potch just creep through to the front, I have to clip it off. Whereas this other end is pretty crystal and the color bar is super thick, so there's not a concern in the world surrounding that end. That end we can just carve through like we just don't care. We're not going to run out of color bar, we just want to make sure the stone is pretty square and pretty flat on the back though. Because I will probably end up bezel setting this, because it's a really nice stone. A little bit of potch lines, but I find that pretty interesting. You can see here this is after the sintered diamond, so sandpaper drums. We'll start off with 240, we'll go all the way up to 5000 grit. You can see here my 240 is getting pretty worn. There's not a lot of layers left, but it's still got plenty to get this stone done, that is for sure. A small stone like this, it will not even destroy an entire layer, so this layer will be enough to get through it. And you can see there in the bottom picture, that's the full range. I'd go through every single one of them. Sometimes you don't have to start at the 240 if you've used your 600 grit sintered diamond to get all the way down to the final stone shape and size and everything. But here I wanted to just tidy up the edges with the 240, give myself a nice little setting edge. I'm not the best jeweler in the world, so I want it pretty good, otherwise I'm going to have to battle away in the silversmithing part, and that's not my forte. So let's have a look at the final stone. So ladies and gentlemen, end of another one, and it turned out nothing like I thought. I did not expect it to be this good. It's pretty solid blue on black. A little bit of a potch line you can see running straight up the guts, and I did end up dopping it because, well, it's small, and once you start to try to get a shape like this, something pretty symmetrical, you want to just dot, because otherwise your fingers are just always in the way. You're constantly fighting your fingers, and the sandpaper drums are pretty big, so to get in here and get it all even, it's pretty tough. So just dop it. But yeah, all in all, not bad. I'll just have to soak it up in water now. I did want to keep a lot of the wood features, as you can imagine, because I've cabbed it and dopped it and everything. I've trimmed it all the way back. So all the wood features now gone. Can't really call it a opalized wood kind of fossil anymore. It is just simply a ovalish cab, which I should be able to set because I am now officially on 3 weeks of leave from work, and I'm going to go pretty hard at all the long-term projects that I've been working on, including the jewelry making, which I am all geared up and already started recording. So wish me luck. It's actually pretty fun. This one has to go back in the water and soak, give it a day. I super glued it pretty solidly, this one. I left a little gap and everything, so it's going to hold on real tight. I'm going to have to give it a good 24 hours probably in the water. So hopefully that helped. The cut didn't go anywhere like I was expecting, which is a good and a bad thing because we've ended up with a really good cracker stone, but I've now lost my piece of opalized wood. If I knew it was going to come up like this, I would have cut it a long time ago actually. Anyway, hope you guys have a good year. I might be able to sneak out another video before Christmas, New Year's. If not, I'll see you next year. Have fun carving and keep at it. Big things to come.